Okay, everyone. I'm so excited. Whoops, actually, there we go. Can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up on that one. Okay, great. Just want to make sure all technology is a go, because even when you're sharing something about AI or technology, oftentimes it still fails for you. So I'm so excited to be here with all of you and just really love everything that Marissa puts out into the world. So I'm excited to be here. And you guys are my first speaking engagement since the summer. So I'm excited to be back here. I took a nice time off for the summer. I hope each of you take time in your lives to have a little bit of a pause for reflection when you can, even if it's just for a few days. So I'm back and I'm excited to be here with you today. I wanted to take maybe a little bit different approach to looking at AI than maybe you've talked about in the past. Because I think AI can seem overwhelming at times, especially when things are changing rapidly with AI. But what I really encourage people to look at when they are looking at AI is, what is it going to do to impact our lives, our workplaces, and our society over the next 5 to 10 years? And how can we be a part of that? How can we be engaged participants with AI and working alongside it, as well as working to use it in a more positive light? Because a lot of times AI can get kind of a negative rap for a lot of good reasons, as well as it can get some negative rap for maybe some more reasons that are less understood about AI. So we're going to dive into a little bit of that today. But I just wanted to share a little bit so you know who is talking to you today. I was a tech founder of a startup called Allobee, which was a platform that helped freelancers, specifically women, and to get work in a flexible way. And so I had that for about 5 years, and it was acquired at the end of 2022. And then I went on to work for a company called The Riveter for a little bit of time there as their chief product officer. And now I actually have not announced this publicly. I'm announcing it this week, but I'm stepping in as the chief operations officer at a company called The Care Gap, which was formerly Mother Honestly. And they are focused on innovative solutions to help close the care gap. Specifically, I'll be working on helping with the gender care gap, and helping to close that here in the United States. It is a global company that has an operations arm working in Africa as well. So I'm excited to be able to step into that. And one of the reasons I'm doing that specifically, and it kind of goes a little bit along with what we're talking about today, is that I feel like one of the big barriers for women, especially to step into working in AI and innovation and all of it, is because of the lack of care and support for care in the United States and abroad. And so it is one thing that I talk about in my book about the care gap. And so this is an area that I'm really passionate about. I helped to build a company to support flexible work as well. And so I'm excited to be jumping into that. I also love to run, hike, read, and cook, and have deep conversations about things that are happening in the future. So I'm really passionate about workplaces and work. And so we're going to dive a little bit into that with AI today as well. So I want you right now to kind of imagine a world where technology and innovation are guided by diverse perspectives, where creativity and ingenuity are not hindered by gender boundaries, and women play an instrument role in shaping the future. Whether you are a woman today or not, I think that it's something to really think about, because we don't really put women at the center of innovation or technology very often. And even women that are working in major tech companies, working to build these solutions, don't often put themselves at the center either, in conversations that I've had. And so I want you to just think about that. It's a lot about what my book positions, and I think it's a good thing to think about as we go into this conversation. Today, we're going to talk and have a conversation around AI's role in building better workplaces and how to support ourselves and our employees in the age of AI. Like I mentioned, AI is rapidly developing and it's always changing. So I could teach you a whole class on AI, but it might be irrelevant in the next 3 months. just as fast as it's developing. And so instead, I really want to hit on how we can use it to better our workplaces and ourselves, and also how we can stay in the loop and on top of taking care of ourselves in this rapidly evolving change. We really are in this massive whirlwind of change happening in so many areas of our lives and in our country and in the world, and specifically also in technology. And so this is a new time and era that we need to be paying attention to. So the question that will kind of guide us is, what does the future workplace look like with AI at the forefront? Because whether we like it or not, it's already hitting the forefront of every workplace. And in the next 10 years, will pretty much take over lots of jobs, as you've probably heard. It will also take over just the way that we operate within the workplace. And so how can we stand out as employees, as managers, as people, in respect to AI? Instead of getting stressed about it, I want to position us in ways that we can start using it to our advantage and to bring things that maybe we want into our lives, like work-life balance or more diversity within the workforce. And so that's what we're going to discuss today. The themes we're going to look at are really looking at kind of human-centered leadership. As we're seeing AI come in, we're going to see that AI is going to take on some of the roles of leadership and management. And how can we make sure that we keep this human-centered leadership? How can we avoid burnout in partnership with AI, work-life balance, and some societal impact for good? So how can AI empower us to lead in ways that prioritize people without sacrificing success? One way that I really like to break things down when I'm learning new things, when I'm entering into harder situations, is what I call the GEMS framework. And this is what I lay out in my book. So if you want to learn more about this, we're not going to hit on a ton of it today, but you're welcome to dive in further with my book. And I have a course that goes along with it when you purchase the book. But I have a programming background and technical background prior to becoming an entrepreneur. And so I look at everything kind of surrounding code and programming. And so I really look at that as a programmer is changing their code, whether you've ever programmed before, you don't have to, but you're always working through bugs and issues that arise in the code. But that's also how it happens in life. There's always things that change. Maybe we have to quit a job because we have a toxic workplace and we need to go into a new job, or maybe we, didn't get the promotion that we want. Maybe we see eventually that AI is taking over our job and we need to pivot and go into a different area of our career or step into management instead of staying in a more individual contributor role. But this framework that I developed can really help us to look at self-reflection, determination, and how we can continuously improve ourselves. And this is really vital in this era of AI, because we're going to see all of these different bugs and issues start to arise that AI is pushing upon in our workplaces. So the first element of this framework is grit. And I especially love grit. I also talk about some dark sides of grit within that can come up, especially with very ambitious women. We can have some bad sides of grit that come into play. But what I mean with grit in reference to AI is we really need to build resilience into our code. So we really need to work on resilience, because with this rapid evolution of AI changing on a regular basis, like literally, I think in the last 3 weeks with ChatGPT, they changed to 2 different models, at least for developer side. And that means that they are evolving at such a rapid pace that they are advancing what would have been back in 2022, where it was taking almost a year to develop into a new model. They're rapidly evolving within a month. So we're seeing this happening so fast, and that's starting to trickle down into every element of our lives. So with this fast-paced evolution, it can get very stressful. We have to continuously step into looking at it in different ways. And so we need to build that resilience so we can adapt to the AI that's changing. We also, if you're a manager, you're going to need to be able to develop that resilience to handle approaching anybody in that you are overseeing, as well as making sure that your team is evolving as needed within the workforce. So grit's really important for us to make sure that we are keeping in mind as we're developing in this new era of AI. The next one is education, and this one is really prominent specifically with AI because we have to make sure we understand what it's doing. So I like to tell people that you're never going to catch up with everything that's going on with AI. I read several newsletters and articles as well as even research papers on a regular basis because I'm very much in this space, but you shouldn't have to do that and you shouldn't be expected to do that. But what I do encourage you to do is to use AI every single day. And that might mean that you were just opening up ChatGPT or another platform with AI and just asking it questions. How can it help and support you on a regular basis? If you're not using it and learning with it and understanding it, you're going to get left behind because within a few years, if not a year, we're going to see Google become ChatGPT, and you're going to be using that on a regular basis. Just like the world changed with Google, it's going to be changing here with AI. And so we have to make sure that we are continuing to learn and see how this is evolving. I think it's also really important to continuously be looking at how this is impacting certain sectors, certain industries. So specifically trying to stay up to date on how it's impacting your industry, because it's going to cause a lot of upskilling that's going to need to happen, as well as diving into looking at not just how do we upskill, but how do we become, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, how do we tap more into our creativity and the things that set us apart as humans versus AI? And so we really need to make sure that we're continuously learning and staying up to date on the different elements of AI that impact us in our specific careers. The next one is mindset. We really need to make sure that with AI, we're taking a growth mindset. It can feel very overwhelming. We can be kind of frustrated with it. We might not want to even, deal with it, but we really need to make sure as managers, as employees, as just individual citizens, to really look at it in a growth mindset and embrace it because it can help us in a lot of different ways, which we'll dive into in a second. It can help us with more efficient work environments, a better work-life balance by giving things that would have taken time of our day to AI, and we can really use that to our advantage. I always tell a story about how, especially when we have imposter syndrome around stepping into these new things, and AI could be one of them, or any elements of technology for a lot of people, but I don't know if any of you watched the show Breaking Bad, but it's a favorite of mine. And one of the characters in the show, Jesse, him and Walt are talking, and Walt tells him that he needs to embrace like his inner blowfish. He needs to be a blowfish. And so he needs to blow himself up like a blowfish and get really big, even though the blowfish originally is kind of small. And it needs to take up that space in the room so they can, take up more space. And so I encourage you to think about this when you are embracing AI, is that maybe you don't feel comfortable with it. Maybe you don't feel that you have the skills around AI. But if you kind of pump yourself up a little bit and do that education, get that resilience, it can help you to have that better growth mindset when embracing AI. And then the last one of the GEMS framework is support. So this one is really looking at kind of strengthening that foundation of your code. It's really important that you are not just trying to evolve with AI on your own, but really leaning into, coming to sessions like this and other things where you can learn more about AI, working with AI on a regular basis, and asking someone else to join in with you. Maybe there is another manager on your team or in your organization. Maybe there's some people even on your team that want to take a little more time to learn AI, to see ways that you can support each other within your work environments and use it in a positive way. The ways that we're going to use it in a positive way are going to need to come from people that don't know as much about AI, because you can ask those questions that are like, can this help me, set up my kids' schedule for the week? Can this help me to take some things off of my plate so I can be more present in these work meetings? We need to make sure that we're thinking outside of the box and how we can use these AI-powered tools to create a better work environment. So now I want to dive a little bit into the role of AI and this human-centered, for human-centered leaders. So as we bring on AI into our work environments, we can really start looking at it as a supportive part of the team. What's going to start happening, especially in the next probably 2 to 3 years, is we're going to see a lot of what they call AI agents. So there's going to be people or AI agents that are non-human that are going to be working in human capacity of what we've seen in the past. So this might be what would have been a freelancer in the past that's taking on a role as an assistant. It could be more of the personal assistant role. It could be even a social media type manager. It could be in all different areas. These are rapidly developing. I just talked to a startup yesterday that raised several $1 million, and they already have about 20 different AI agent models that are being beta tested right now with major corporations that will be coming in and taking on several different key roles of lower level, entry level positions at companies. And this is going to be rolling out in the next 2 to 3 years, if not less. And this means that AI is literally going to be a part of the team at this point. And so that is a few years out, but we need to start planning for that in our heads of what are we going to do to add AI as a supportive part of our team, but not taking over all of the elements that really make for a good workforce and workplace environment. So it's definitely going to solve for a lot of those repetitive tasks, those tasks that are causing people to have to continue to show up to work even later than they want to, working, long hours. That's going to be one thing that's going to be able to be taken off of people's plates with AI. I think right now it's starting to happen in several work environments, but it's still almost adding more layers to the job instead of taking it away. So we're still learning how do we integrate that into the current workflow within the work environment. We also are looking at ways that we need to look at ways that we can humanize AI. So it's going to become so much a part of our workforce that we can't ignore it. And so we need to figure out ways that we can be a part of it together. But one of the things that is going to be really important is making room for empathy within our team. So this is going to be hard on the majority of people in today's workforce, especially people that are not as familiar with technology, people that are not spending as much time learning about it right now. And it's going to cause some problems. It's already causing problems in some workforces, but we need to make sure that as leaders, we are more empathetic to what's going on. And we can't ignore it. We can't just be like, we don't want to use AI in our workforce, because it's going to get pushed in over time, especially over the next 5 to 10 years. And so we need to make sure that we're making room for those conversations, but listening to our employees and everyone that is a part of the team and making space for it. So how can we use AI to help our teams and avoid burnout? This is one area that I think that AI is in such a positive light because it really can help us with our efficiency. I've been using AI in my work for probably about 5 years at this point. We were using it in our product with Reloveution, as well as I had used it for several consulting clients since then. And what is really great about it is it can take so much off of you. As a startup founder, you almost can build a company in conjunction with AI and be a one-person team for very long before you need to add other people in at this point, which is huge. It's also really scary when you are considering the fact that you don't need to hire several employees for a very long time when building a company. Um, the great thing about it, though, is that it can, which I'm sure you've probably seen this in different ways, it can help you automate tasks. It can allow you to delegate more things. And it can free up that time for strategic thinking. And so, what I hope that it will do a lot of in the next few years is allow people that were very much stuck in this repetitive task, very like annoying type elements of work to step into a little bit more creativity within the workforce and allow them to enjoy their work more. But this is going to take a lot from managers and the whole company and leadership as well to really look at what are we going to do to use those employees in a better light while AI takes over the rest of this. Does that allow us to not have as strict work hours? Does it allow us to have more time for flexibility within the day? So our human employees are, given more support within their work-life balance and want to stay and work for our company for longer, and it allows them not to burn out. Maybe we don't need to spend as much money on some of the wellness benefits because there's more time within the day already built in. So these are the things that need to be the conversations that need to be happening because so many of those lower level tasks and then eventually a little bit higher level tasks are going to be automated completely with AI. There are some really cool tools that are coming out right now that are working specifically on delegation. And I think this is really awesome because delegation, especially what we saw in the glass company that I built, is one of the hardest things for people to do, especially managers, is to, and just really good employees in general, is to delegate. They want to take it all on, they want to do it, they want to micromanage in some way. And so being able to have AI completely delegate those tasks to the whole team is really important. But it does start to impact roles like project managers and product managers because that delegation of tasks, the management of projects is really being taken away from AI. So how do we evaluate those different roles and look at them in different ways and look at the ways that humans can be more effective in those roles versus AI is going to be important. So how can AI really be an ally in helping with work-life balance? I've mentioned some of this up to this point, but some of the specific tools and examples would be if you haven't used a platform like Notion, it's great for organizing tasks and really keeping you all in one workspace. There's also Clockwise and several other different platforms, Calendly, others for scheduling, Trello for workflow management. A lot of these have already been here. And we've been using them in our workflows for a while now. Now they just have more AI elements and more companies are starting to build additional AI workflows into them. So some of the things are not going to be massive change within the work environment. They're just getting additional elements of AI. Another one would be like Zoom, like we're on. The meeting transcription is great because it allows for managers to be able to have that transcript of what's happened in the past during that meeting, but they can be more present during the meeting. You're going to see a lot more of that where all of that note taking as well as just things that are happening within the meeting are taken care of instead of the employees having to focus on that. The next one I want to look at real quick is just authentic leadership in the age of AI. So this is going to be absolutely essential because of the fact that we can automate every task. We can really do a lot of things. You can do everything from coding to building to project management, all of these different elements within AI. But it leaves out that empathy, the emotional intelligence, the creativity. All of those are irreplaceable and they have to be taken over and focused on by all of us that are still here that are not AI. And so I want to make sure that those are what we're looking at when it comes to how do we kind of survive this age of AI? How do we focus our attention as leaders into that area? We also need to focus leadership qualities that AI can't replicate. So this would be like decision making in uncertain environments. I joke with my husband, but he works for a tech company specifically in security. And so he's working on making sure that the bots aren't going crazy and that they're not getting hacked and all of these things. And a lot of that literally cannot be replaced by AI because it's these uncertain environments, the things that are unknown, that can't really be predicted for what's coming down the line. So we definitely can focus on stuff in that environment. Also, emotional understanding. I think a lot of elements for managers specifically, that's kind of great in the age of AI is managers can't completely go away because there has to be that human emotional connection that is happening within management, or teams are just going to completely fall apart. Maybe that delegation responsibility and the task automation, all of that will be taken over, but they really still need that emotional understanding, emotional intelligence, as well as motivating teams. I'm not sure I can get very motivated by like a Slack, bot coming in saying, yay, be motivated. We really need to make sure that we are able to motivate teams emotionally and in that human respect. Okay. And then an example of this would just be leading by fostering that creativity and problem solving skills that go beyond that automation. So honestly, a lot of work that Marissa and her team do are so essential for how do we have these better workplace environments and foster all of these important areas. Because if we are not looking at that within our workplaces, we're not going to even know where to start when it comes to standing out from what AI will replace in a very short time. And I think that this gives us a lot of potential and excitement for what's to come in the future for work. And it's going to look a lot different. I think about it even for my kids. I think it was Bill Gates or somebody, probably not Bill Gates, but someone I read recently was saying that in the next, I think it was by 2035, 9-to-5 jobs will not exist. And my daughter is going to graduate high school in 2035. And I was thinking that's wild that she would potentially not have a 9-to-5 job. And that is a completely different world. And just as our grandparents and great-grandparents worked in a completely different work environment than we do today, our children and grandchildren are going to work in a completely different work environment because of the evolution of AI. And so that's something to really consider as we are, building in this age and era. So the last thing I want to hit on real quick is just leveraging AI for social impact and community leadership. And I recently did a talk at Google for a bunch of Google engineers who are, obviously coding on a regular basis and building things for Google. But I encourage them to figure out ways that they could leverage AI and, their skill set. But it doesn't have to be Google engineers. This is for everybody. But how do you leverage these tools for not just business efficiency, but for community empowerment? There are so many organizations in every single one of our communities that are really struggling with adapting to not just AI, but adapting to technology in general. And so how can we learn a little bit more about technology and AI, but also help to drive some social change within these organizations and within our communities? And so this could be within your own company that you work for. Maybe you are helping with an initiative to support AI within your organization, helping people to learn more about the development of AI. But it also could be that you help to, volunteer for your kids' local school, and you're helping them with some technology elements or an after-school activity. But I really encourage you to think about ways that you can get your community and society involved in using technology for good, because it oftentimes really gets a bad rap, but it can be used in such a positive way. Everything from I know our PTA, we just donated a whole bunch of headphones so kids could actually use the computers to be read to the test questions, because it's really hard for the kids to all understand if they have low literacy rates within the classroom. So it could be something as simple as getting headphones for the computers within the schools. But this is really important to make sure that we are using technology in a positive way. Hey, and then I'm going to open up for discussion in just a second, but obviously it's hard to fit a bunch of information into 30 minutes. And so I dive into a lot more about how to actually use and build with technology. And it does not have to be something that you do and build a company with. I think some of our best uses of technology are used, created by people that have full-time jobs. And are using it in their workplaces as well as using it in society as well. So you're welcome to dive into that. And as I mentioned, there's a whole course that goes along with it if you buy the book. So feel free to reach out with any questions on that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brooke. We are going to stop the recording